Welcome to Inside Roanoke. I'm Melinda Mayo, the Communications and Media Officer for the City of Roanoke. Today we're here in Elmwood Park to talk about art in Roanoke. We're also going to learn about summer safety and a lot more, so stay with us. My guest is Douglas Jackson, and Doug is the Arts and Culture Coordinator for the City of Roanoke. We're here at the Elmwood Park Art Walk to talk about art in Roanoke. Tell us what that program is. What's it about?
Well, Art in Roanoke is our temporary sculptural exhibition, and we have done, we're doing our 6th round of it. So every couple of years or so, we'll invite artists from around the country and locally to submit art to go on the Elmwood Art Walk.
Okay.
And we get to experience it for a couple of years.
So the process is people submit applications. How does that work?
We put a call out, and this time we had 56 artists propose work on the theme Reimagining Roanoke.
Okay.
So we really wanted people to think about how our community is always transitioning, how it's transitioned from the past to today, and what we might be like in the future.
Well, talk about some of the pieces that are installed. And the one behind us here, just kind of mention some of those and what they're about.
Yeah, well, Charlie Brower did Winged Victory, and you can tell it's a star with wings behind it. And he used, I should say too, that we asked the artist to repurpose materials for this piece, for this work. And he worked with a lumber yard. He's a Floyd County artist, and he worked with a lumber yard and got scraps from a sawmill and pieced those together. And people in the community are very familiar with Charlie's work. He's had pieces in our shows before, and a few years ago did an installation at the Taubman where everyone contributed ladders, and we built a community sculpture with ladders.
Wow. What's some of the other ones?
So we have an artist out of New York, Beatrice Carone, and she created a sculptural flower. And it's a pretty beautiful flower, I think. It's made of steel and repurposed steel. And if you look closely, you'll see many images of Roanoke that are cut into the petals of the flower. So you'll see the star, and you'll see an airplane from the airport, and you'll see the Crillian Hospital, and you'll see Oscar Michaud, the filmmaker, and Oliver Hill. Yeah,
that's cool.
So a lot of familiar scenes from Roanoke.
How long will these pieces be here, Douglas?
We're going to have these up for 2 years.
Okay, and it's a great place for them to be, right? Lots of visibility here.
It really is. And if you came down during the marathon weekend, you saw how the marathon was set up right here on the art walk, and it was a terrific place to be with lots of people, and you saw people looking at the art. It's a nice hub. When they redid Elmwood Park in 2015 or so, they created the art walk. We had done this show prior to that, and it always put art around neighborhoods.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so this year we're starting to do a little bit of a mix. We're calling it an extended mix. Okay. So we actually have a site-specific piece that's out at Hollins University. We have a piece on the Greenway, and we've also included some pieces in this show from our permanent collection from out in Vic Thomas Park in the Ann Davey Masters Sculpture Garden.
Why do you think it's so important to our community to have public art like this?
Well, wow, it's important for any number of reasons. One is art lets us put our fingerprint on the world around us. So it was a civic panel that chose the art for this. That's one way. It's important to see ourselves in the art that's put in public spaces. It can make us stop and think, reflect on the world around us. I'm a big fan, and I get different things from it. Sometimes art can provide just a little space that's outside of the ordinary, just on the day you need it.
Right. And for people who are watching, remind us how the public art is funded in the City of Roanoke.
We have what's called a Percent for Art Fund, and 1% of most of our capital projects is dedicated to public art. So that way, when we have a building, we can put two-dimensional art on the walls in the building, or we can incorporate functional art into the building, or we can put a pad in front of the building, say the new fire station, and put a big dog on it. And everybody loves Trojan Dog by Ann Glover.
Anything we didn't mention that you wanted to include in?
One thing that's important about this, we have a mix of both national artists and regional artists, and that was really important to the committee. I just mentioned Trojan Dog, and I will say that started through a temporary exhibition.
That's right.
So Anne first made it in plywood and marine paint, and then now it's re-envisioned or reformed with a 65-year life.
Yeah.
So we also see this as a way of encouraging local artists to do outdoor sculptural work and help them in their path. So we're excited about some new artists who we haven't worked with before, who are local, who have works in this collection.
Great. If somebody who's watching wanted to know more about our public art program, how could they get that information?
We have a website that we try to keep updated, and it's roanokearts.org.
Okay, well, very exciting, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Okay. My guest is Kristen Perdue with Roanoke Fire EMS. Kristen, we want to talk about some important information people need to hear, starting with the summer heat, what we need to be aware of, things like heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Share a little bit about what things that we should watch out for.
Absolutely. It is easy to get heat exhaustion while you're out in the summer sun. It's blazing down on you. Your kids might be playing at the park, which is a prime opportunity. They're working up a sweat, but also the sun is beating down on them. So maybe look out for some different symptoms. If you are starting to sweat, or if you are having some nausea or things like that, and you might look out for some heat exhaustion. You can alleviate that by cooling them off with a cool towel or taking them inside to some air conditioning. But really what you want to look out for too is the possibility of heat stroke, which can happen if there is no sweating at all or their body temperature raises above 103. You want to look to go to the emergency room because it could be very significant, and it could cause them issues and they can become unconscious. So that's when you want to call 911.
Well, another thing that happens when it gets warm is it's that thing about people leaving their children in a car.
Absolutely.
And I know this happens by accident, and so talk about that a little.
You know, children and pets, sometimes they leave them accidentally, but a lot of times they just leave them there for a few minutes. But what people don't know is it only takes a few minutes, 10 minutes for a car's heat to raise up 20 degrees. And that's a lot. That's enough to potentially cause harm to a child or to animals. Even though you might be leaving them in there for a little bit and maybe you have the window cracked, that doesn't mean that the car is getting any cooler. So you want to make sure that you take your pet or have plans for your pet or your children when you're running on errands and not leaving them in the car, because it could be very dangerous for them. And if you see an animal or a child within a car, you want to act on it. You want to call 911 or stay there until you can make sure that the situation has been alleviated.
Okay. And another thing that happens in the summer is people go swimming. What kind of water safety do we need to think about?
Whether you're near a pool, the lake, a river, if you have children out and about playing, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on them. It's very easy for a child to slip in the water and you not know what happened to them. And we can have situations where a child does drown. So if they can't swim, you know, maybe take them to some swim lessons.
There you go.
Let them learn how to swim or how to recover themselves and tread water in the process. But if they aren't of swimming age, you know, just make sure that you're keeping a close eye on them. Now for you in general, if you can't swim, make sure you're in a place where you can touch the ground and you don't have swift water running past you. So a river might not be the best place to swim. A pool is a great place, staying in the shallow end, or something like a lake where you can feel the bottom and not go too far out.
Well, another thing people like to do in the summer is camp out. So talk about safety with fire, like campfires and cooking out on the grill and things like that.
Sure, camping out is great, and a lot of times people go to places that are a little more rural. So for our instances, grilling and camping using campfires, you do so in a city environment, which some of them are prohibited, but some of them are not. But it is based on, we want to make sure you're safe while you do either of these things. So while you grill out, make sure that you have a grill at least 10 to 15 feet away from your home. This is because if a fire starts, we don't want it to spread to your home. Or the shrubbery or mulch beside it, you want to make sure that it's away from flammable materials. So that way a fire doesn't spread quickly, because fires can spread very quickly if you're using a grill. There's a few other grill safety tips. You want to make sure that you're checking if you do have a gas grill, making sure you don't have a leak on that gas grill. Or not using it inside your home. Unfortunately, we do see that sometimes. So we want to make sure people aren't doing that. But also, if you want to have a little campfire in your backyard, just be aware that if it does cause a nuisance to your neighbors, we will ask you to put it out. But for the most part, you can have it. We do recommend you follow our guidelines, which can be found on our website, roanokeva.gov/fire-EMS.
Anything we didn't mention that people need to kind of watch out for this summer?
You know, just making sure that you're being safe, staying hydrated, using sunscreen. It's very important to, while you're out and about, keep mindful of these things because it will be hot.
Yeah.
You know, it's already hot out here today, and I know as the summer continues to go on, it will become a lot hotter. So we just want everyone to be safe, be careful while they're out there playing, while the kids are out there playing, while you're out there walking. Make sure you're wearing appropriate clothing. You know, while you're exercising out on the parkway or what have you on the greenway, make sure that you're wearing clothing that's conducive with the environment that day, because loose fitting clothing is very great and light colored clothing is great. Sometimes it can be hot, and that can actually impact how you feel, how warm it is to you with the certain clothes you wear. So just a few extra tips to stay safe.
And a lot of this information is on the website. Give that website address again.
It's roanokeva.gov/fire-EMS.
Well, it's great information. I hope everybody's paying attention and has a great summer. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Talking to Nell Boyle, and Nell is a sustainability coordinator for the city of Roanoke. Nell, we want to talk about the plastic bag tax that's recently been passed by City Council. Talk about that. What is that, and kind of background on it? Give us a little about that.
Absolutely. It's an environmental tax. So we're here to try and change behavior and get people to learn and understand what the problem is with the plastic bags. What we're finding with the plastic bags is they're so lightweight, they just pick up by the wind. There's a lot of litter. There's a lot of damage in the stormwater drains where the bags get caught up in the waterways, which is really the big problem for us. And also, you may be familiar with the term microplastics. So these bags, they get into the water and they break down, but they don't actually dissolve. They just break into really tiny little pieces. And then the fish and the wildlife ingest that, and it messes up the balance of the water as well. So it's a big water quality issue as well. So we're really interested in getting out to the community, helping them understand why we don't want to use these bags in the first place.
Right.
And then also to make sure that people start to think about perhaps using a reusable bag. And when they use that reusable bag, they don't have to pay the tax.
Right. Give some background about this whole idea, because it's been around for a while. Talk about that a little.
So I've been with the city 9 years, and one of my very first things that I did was to put this legislation proposal forward from City Council. So we've been doing this for a couple of years before me, so at least 10 I'm sure of, where we said we've identified this as a problem, we know it's a real problem for our waterways, and we really need to get it done. So we're really hopeful that this will help people think about things differently and take the time to make a change.
Why did it take so long for us to get it?
I think there was a lot of reluctance to bring a tax in the first place because, you know, taxes are a little bit of a sensitive area. But again, this is the tax you don't have to pay if you're willing to go out and get that bag and bring your bags into the grocery or the pharmacy or the convenience store. Those are the three places that we're going to have the tax implemented. Some of the other stores you won't see that tax, but that's for now. I think they've realized it really can make a difference.
And the state legislature had to support it as well,
They had to enable it for anybody to be able to do this. And so after the state enabled it, then we went ahead and adopted it. We are the first community in Virginia to adopt it. And communities all over the state are watching us to see how it moves forward. So we're excited about that. But since we are the first, there's still some things we need from the states. There's some guidelines that they're developing. It hasn't started yet. So that may interrupt our schedule. We might have to put it off just a bit. But you know, we are the ones that are taking the lead on this. So pretty exciting.
So when have we projected that it will take effect?
January 1st. It's adopted as of July 1st, and then January 1st is 2022. It'll go into effect. So we'll be working with local grocers, local convenience stores,
Right.
local pharmacies, to help them put in place any kind of special processes that they need to do. And then the other thing I hadn't mentioned is this tax, Melinda, can go to the benefit of cleaning up the litter and providing education, and also free bags for those that are in need.
Like the one you have in your hand?
Like the one I have in my hand, you know, it's such a nice thing. I love this one. It was just at the checkout store at the grocery, and it's got the nice insulated lining, and I like this. It's got that. $2. I'll probably use it for 10 years. So I think it's a pretty good value, and it keeps your food cold while you're traveling.
So what we're really hoping is that it will change behaviors, right?
Absolutely,
That's what it's about.
absolutely. And you know, I remember when I started to do it, it takes a few times. You leave them in the car, you forget to bring them from home, but before you know it, you're using them all the time, and they're so easy and so convenient. And this tax really works. That's the thing that we're seeing in other areas that have implemented it. The first year, it's a little bit of a learning curve. The second year, hardly any tax is collected because people have changed their behavior.
I know, and I remember one of our city council members saying, we hope we don't collect any tax.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, this is the one you can avoid.
Yeah. Well, if somebody's watching and they want to know more, how can they get information?
They could reach out to me, Nell Boyle, at the City of Roanoke, and my email is nell.boyle@roanokeva.gov, and my phone number is 540-853-5430.
Well, it's very interesting. We hope it's very effective, and thanks for sharing it.
Thank you.
Okay. My guest is Sheila Umberger. Sheila is the director of Roanoke Public Libraries. Sheila, there's a lot going on this summer at the libraries. Start by giving us a little update. We had an award recently, a Bright Spot Award. Talk about that a little.
Yes, we were very excited. That was one we actually didn't apply for, so it was even nicer. So for a full year, without us really realizing it, the Campaign for Grade Level Reading had been reviewing all 400 of the communities in their group for what the response was to COVID. And they chose 11 communities as bright spots, and their definition of that was a community that responded to the community during COVID with both innovation and also things that they should replicate in other communities, as well as things that we should continue to do. And so in our particular case, the shout out was for our Feed and Read that we expanded, and also the curbside kits that we gave out last summer reading. We gave out 8,000 kits to the children in the community. So we were really excited, and we didn't have to wait to hear how we were doing. But it was very encouraging.
And now today, you and I are here at the Gainsborough Ranch.
Yes.
Talk about what's happening with Gainsborough.
Oh, so for the last year, while we have been renovating, and this was one of our first renovations in 2008, 2009.
That's right.
And so this is billed as a refresh, but we have enjoyed being able to do everything. So we have new carpet and furniture, paint, and then we decided to paint outside because it looks so good. So it is just really beautiful. New signage, new technology, additional computers. We redesigned the teen center. One of my favorite areas, two of my favorite areas are right behind us, are some of the historic photos that we used on the end panels for the adult books.
Yes.
And also the Virginia Y. Lee room. It's a lot more flexible now. And so that's going to be a really nice gathering spot for the community.
So we're very excited about this library being renovated and reopened in June. There's also a summer reading program going on in the next few months.
Everything was started. We started everything on June 15th. It was a good date. And so summer reading started, ribbon cutting here at this branch, and all our programs rolling out for the summer. And of course, here programs that we did, so the ribbon cutting the morning of the 15th, and then we're full open at all locations.
Wow. Now, towards the end of June, you have a big festival coming. Read and Ready, is that the name of it?
That is. One of those kind of encouraging things besides the Bright Spot is we have a donation from the Soho House Foundation, and they give out books, almost over 5 million a year. They have given us 40,000 books for Star City Reads. They're preschool through 3rd grade. And the value on them, if we were purchasing them, is over $500,000. So they're coming along with the Library of Virginia, which also helped with the grant on the transport of these materials, to celebrate that at a Read and Ready community event at our Williamson Road branch on June 29th.
Okay.
It'll be from 10 to 3. And it's going to be, we're going to have a wonderful time. We're going to have a petting zoo outside and you know, food trucks and all that. So encourage the community to come out to that.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and I know it's so wonderful to have things open again and be able to interact with our customers, our citizens, right?
We're so excited to be open. And of course, you know, we've stayed in touch with our community, but it's so wonderful to be able to fully open our doors, and that's what we will be, that's what we were able to do on the 15th of June.
Well, if somebody's watching today and they want more information, how can they get it?
Well, our social media sites, and also just call any of your branches if you have a question about something about hours. But our hours are what they were before, so we're open 6 days a week.
Very exciting. We can't wait for it to happen. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Thanks. My guest is Trevor Shannon, and Trevor is the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Roanoke. Trevor, we want to talk about severe weather, which happens in the summer, and summer's just around the corner. Let's start by talking about what are things we can do to prepare for a potential summer event, storm event.
Sure. Thank you. So first of all, one of the things that we're always concerned with is your preparedness kit at home. And we encourage everyone to have a preparedness kit in their home. And that can start with something as small as a 5-gallon bucket with some preparedness supplies. And it can grow to whatever it may be. It may be 3 shelves in your basement or in your storage closet, whatever that may look like. But you know, you can get a lot of the things that you need for it at a local, you know, Family Dollar store type store, and start building that kit. Within that kit, ultimately, we would tell you to have a weather radio, and you can get those, you know, wherever you may find one, $15, $20, but very handy if you lose power, you're really trying to monitor a weather condition, a storm that's coming, whatever it may be. With that preparedness kit, you can also prepare your home, you know, clear dead limbs of trees away from the home, clear your gutters, your roadway of leaves that may be in the, you know, cause flooding or water backups. And then, you know, insurance. Insurance is another thing that you can make sure you check on and follow up with your insurance agent and make sure you have the coverage you would need in case we do see flooding or anything like that. And that's usually the insurance piece is pushed out towards the coastal areas a lot of times, but it's not a bad idea locally to continue, you know, checking that and making sure you have what you would need in the event of an emergency. And then also maintaining all your paperwork, your family contacts, family emergency lists, and things like that. You know, if your cell phone dies in an emergency and you don't remember that number you might need, that becomes challenging. So if you have those written down somewhere, you want to make sure that's in a safe place and you know where it is.
As far as the emergency kit, would that include like water and food? What all would be in that?
Sure, great question. So, and I frequently carry this document prepared by FEMA with me to events and to give to people, because they actually do have a brochure with it, and it'll give you a full list of everything that you should need. But that list also includes information about your pets. If you have infants, you know, you got to prepare for diapers and formulas and things like that. So really the list can be kind of tailored to your needs. For water, for example, they're going to tell you a gallon per person per day. So family of 4 using a gallon per day, 3 days is 12 gallons of water. You know, people don't really think about that, but in an emergency situation and we're out of, you know, water's not running or your electricity's not running to run your well, whatever it may be, you'll go through that water fairly quickly.
Right.
Another thing we encourage people to do is to prepare ahead and possibly fill their bathtub with water that you can use to either, you know, possibly boil or just use for cleaning, whatever it may be. So that's another way to have extra water on hand.
Or maybe make sure your medical prescriptions are filled or things like that.
Absolutely. Again, that piece tailoring to those needs. Medical prescriptions, your eyeglasses, for example. If you wear glasses, make sure you have extra sets of glasses so you can read emergency information or whatever it might be. So yeah, there's a lot of things on that list, and you can expand that list as much as you want. You know, you can spend $50, you can spend $150, depending on how far into it you get. But one of the things to consider is too, with food, if you have a lot of canned goods and you've got, you know, all kinds of canned goods in this preparedness kit and you don't have a can opener,
Yeah.
then there's there's a problem.
Right.
So that list is nice because it's a checklist. You can scroll through it, and I'll just give you some examples that I pulled directly from the site. But cash and change is another one.
Oh, yeah.
Sleeping bag or warm blanket for each person. Consider additional bedding, fire extinguisher, matches in a waterproof container. The list just keeps going.
Yeah. And I know you talked about, just a second ago, you talked about preparing your property. And I know like a windstorm, you would look out for things that might blow away. Like if we had a wind event, what kind of things would we look out for?
Right. So you want to make sure your umbrellas, your patio dining furniture is secure. A lot of times you see basketball goals blown over, things like that might damage a car or go out in the roadway.
Yes.
The new one that I've been seeing a lot, and we actually had recently, was trampolines in the backyard.
Oh my.
Actually had a trampoline blown up into the power lines. Oh, no. So really a scary incident, but ultimately, could be devastating. So, those trampolines are very nice, but they become giant,
lightning rods.
Yeah, right. So, and they pick up the wind and they'll just get carried.
Yeah.
So be very cautious if you have those. Make sure they're secure, staked down, however you do that. But that's one of those things to consider.
What if you're out when something happens? Let's say we're having a thunderstorm. There's lightning and thunder. You're in the car or you're on foot. What kind of things you should be aware of, actions to take to be careful?
Yeah, so ultimately if you're in your car, that's probably a safe place. It's not necessarily the safest, but always encouraged to find a very sturdy structure, somewhere safe to take shelter throughout the storm, but definitely don't want you out in open space. Try to seek shelter as soon as possible. They say if you can hear the thunder, you're close enough to be struck by lightning. So you really want to consider that if you're out in the field, ballpark, whatever it might be. And then, of course, hopefully not on water, but if you're on water, get out of the water, away from the water, and again, find that shelter.
Well, another problem that we have, and I know we had it just 2 or 3 years ago when we had a hurricane come through, I think it was Hurricane Michael, and that was a lot of flooding that comes with the rain from a hurricane, and it is hurricane season. So talk about what we should do to kind of get ready for that kind of thing, or what we do when it happens.
Yeah, and flooding, I'm becoming very passionate about flooding, especially in the Roanoke Valley. We see it time and time again. Hurricane remnants, almost every year anymore. We see some sort of flooding within the Roanoke Valley. It's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. We cannot put the message out there enough, turn around, don't drown. Yeah. Again, I'll continue pushing that message time and time again until we get it out there that people understand, I can't see the road, I'm not going through that water.
And if something's happening, if we're having a weather event, if you don't have to be out in it, don't, right? Seek shelter.
Right, sure. The more we can stay indoors during these events, the safer we all are. Anything
I didn't mention that you want to remind folks about?
My office in emergency management is always willing to share information about this type of, these types of resources and things like that. And we do have brochures and flyers, and we have access to the Federal Emergency Management Agency who can provide different brochures. So whether you're a business or a volunteer organization that wants more information to share with, staff or residents, things like that, we'll be happy to share information. So. And
what's that contact information for you?
So email at Trevor, TREVOR Shannon, SHANNON at RoanokeVA.gov, or the office number is 540-853-2426.
Well, it's very important information. Thank you for coming and telling us about today.
Sure, thank you.
In Virginia, every corner is a crosswalk, whether a crosswalk is painted or not. Join us in making Roanoke a safe place for everyone. Drivers, stop at the corner. It's the law. Pedestrians cross at the corner.
We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time on Inside Roanoke.